If you want to know how to turn a chair from this to this, keep on watching.
So here's the rub. I have these two chairs, and I want to reupholster them, but I'm not seamstress, and I don't want to put a ton of time and energy into these two chairs. But inevitably, if you want to do something right, you better put the time and energy to do so. So it's going to be a while, but let's start.
And of course, this project starts inevitably with chairs that need to be reupholstered. And these chairs were actually given to me years ago, and I've wanted to reupholster them ever since, but inevitably haven't gone around to it until now. As you can see, they are desperately in need of some reupholstery work. Let's get started. I start by using my needlenose pliers and removing the back layer of fabric. Now this fabric is on there pretty good because there are hundreds of staples stapled to the back edge of this. Now all you have to do is kind of give it a bit of a twist and remove the rest of it and you're good. It's not going to be too difficult. Just watch out for the fact that these items are somewhat sharp and you don't want to poke yourself in the eye or the hand or anything like that. Luckily, I have a really good helper named Kona that just loves to be right next to me as I work on any project. Yeah, he's so helpful, I tell you. He's just my little man that loves to dig holes in my backyard. Yes, he does. Can you believe that? Do you know how much work I did back there, Kona? Anyways, moving on. As you work your way to the bottom, go ahead and remove the black mesh that's on the bottom there, and then proceed to removing the legs. All you need to do is unscrew any screws that may be there and give it a little twist. And boom, done. Well, not done. I mean, we wish. This is just the very, very beginning, of this project. But not to worry, it is going to be a project that really does turn out incredible with some hard work, just like any project. In any project that's worth your weight, it tends to take some hard work to get to that point. And as you can see, I'm taking out quite a few staples, and there's a reason, because you need to use a lot of staples when actually trying to form fabric around an object, which I learned firsthand. So please learn the fact that all the staples you're removing at this point, you're inevitably going to be putting back into the chair. Yes. Now once you remove all the old fabric as well as all the old foam that you'll be replacing later, you want to make sure and do your due diligence and actually remove all the staples that are actually coming up and make sure you can't feel any sharp edges by actually hammering all the ends down. That way you have a nice clean even surface and you're not going to worry about actually placing that on the ground and scratching your floor. So you want to make sure that you do that final step in order to just protect your floor, protect yourself, and make it easier and cleaner. So, this is what we got. Yeah, look at that. Very nice. But I'm keeping this on and this on because, you know what? I really don't want to take it off. Now, as I said from the beginning, I'm not a seamstress, which is why I'm leaving the front side actually on as far as the fabric goes. I'm going to be removing and loosening up the bottom here because we are going to be pull the fabric from the front to the back, which allows us and gives us a nice even seam on the front side, as well as making sure it's secure from the back. Now that our demo portion of this project is completed, it is time to take a few measurements because we need to make sure we have the proper amount of fabric to purchase. I start by taking the width and then the height of the chair, making sure I'm accounting for waist because you're definitely going to need a bit of waist on this. Then making sure to proceed with measuring the seat itself, and then once you have that, it is time to take a trip to the fabric store, Brent's favorite. I mean, come on, who wouldn't love this? All the colors and the fabrics. Oh my, this is quite delightful and enticing. So watch out for, oh, I don't know what that was, but I'm quite aroused. Moving on. There's just so many options here, I just can't choose. There is a plethora of beautiful designs as well as fabrics, and making sure you actually purchase an upholstery fabric which is more thick and dense and you can't see through is definitely key when viewing it. Just keep that in mind because we were definitely looking at the wrong section for a while until we figured that one out. Now, as a few general supplies you're going to need is 1/2-inch cardboard tack strip. You will also need a metal edge tack strip for the seams, You also need a few yards of your soft poly fabric, which I will be showcasing as to how we're going to be utilizing this later. We also need black dust covers for the bottom, as well as, of course, your fabric for the actual project itself. First and foremost, the one thing you're really gonna have to need is a staple gun. Now, you could use that one, or you could use a more industrial version, which I actually picked up for 25 bucks, and trust me when I say this, you need to get one of these if you're gonna do a project like this, because there's a lot of staples. Now, the existing fabric on these chairs have deep grooves and are very textured, which I do not want to be shown through with the new fabric that I'm going to be placing on top of it, which I'm going to be utilizing a fast tack upholstery adhesive to actually adhesive on the poly fabric that I'm going to be applying first prior to the actual upholstery portion of this project. This way I can avoid that old texture showing through in the finished product. As you spray, you want a nice even coverage over the entire surface itself, as well as potentially spraying the new fabric, because that will make sure you have a quality bond that holds for a long time. Now, as you're placing it on top of this, it is definitely a situation where you're going to have to trial and error. You want to start from one edge and then proceed to smoothing it out as you go inch by inch, because otherwise it's not going to turn out very smooth. I grab my staple gun and proceed to stapling off the one edge to making sure that I have a secure finished edge to one side. That way I know where I'm starting from, and it's easier to go from one edge to the next. Spray more adhesive as needed, but just know that a little bit of this goes a long way. I stapled off the top corner and then proceeded to view in awe and amazement of my one cushion that I had completed and recovered. But inevitably, we have quite a few more to go. A couple key recommendations when trying to do this application is making sure you wear gloves for one, because this adhesive does get sticky and you want to make sure it's not sticking to yourself all the time. As well as the fact that making sure you work in small areas. You don't want to do a massive section at once. You want to do one cushion at a time. So I would strongly suggest doing one and then the next and then the next, proceeding one at a time, because if you don't, it might get quite messy. Just FYI. Now, again, I want to reiterate the fact that the only reason why I'm doing this step is because the texture of the existing fabric is significant and I want to cover it up. Hopefully you guys don't have to have this problem or even need to worry about this problem, because if you can avoid it, trust me, please do so. I just thought this was a great, inexpensive way to cover up the existing texture of the fabric. Trust me, this is not me saying, hey Brent, you got a ton of extra time, right? Yeah, why don't you just reupholster some chairs and why don't you just do double the work because you love to do work, right? No, this is not this, and I don't want to be that guy, right? No. Now, once you have the front completely covered, go ahead and proceed to cutting off the back excess material. You don't have to make it beautiful or perfect, just make sure you have enough in order to actually staple to the chair afterwards. As a quick safety side note, especially when using this type of staple gun, making sure you have eye protection on and not, above on your head definitely is more preferable, so just, keep that in mind and think smart. And one thing that I'm glad I was able to say is the fact that I did the hard portion first, because the seat is much easier because there's no crazy folds. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, I literally picked the hardest chair I could possibly try and reupholster for my first reupholstery project. Yeah, this clamshell chair, definitely not easy. Proceeding to the actual fabric portion of this project. Yes, finally, the fabric. The nice aspect about this portion of the project is the fact that we are just copying what we just did with the white fabric that we just previously installed. We are going to tack the back corner as well as then spraying adhesive on that first cushion area, and then we're going to be proceeding to laying it down inch by inch, gently and slowly, just to make sure that we have nice even coverage over the entire area, and we're trying to avoid any rough or uneven areas. Well, let's just be honest with ourselves. We're just trying to make this thing as smooth as humanly possible, yes, because we want to look as professional as possible. We don't want to look like we're a bunch of amateurs or rejects trying to do an upholstery project, right? No. Once we have that first cushion set and looking fabulous, go ahead and proceed to tacking in the entire side all the way down, just making sure that you're actually drilling into the wood frame of the chair itself. If you don't do that, then the staple is going to be coming loose and you're going to have a problem on your hands eventually. And trust me when I say this, don't worry about the fact if it's not perfect the very first time you lay it down. You can definitely work this out in your favor. Just slowly and surely work those creases into position and making them lay flat. It might take a few moments, but inevitably with some hard work and some much needed patience, you'll be able to lay it flat. On a separate side note, I truly feel that this beautiful dark blue suede that we chose for the front is going to be a perfect complement to the crazy pattern that we're going to be putting on the back side. It's going to be quite amazing, so I'm hoping you guys all like it as well. On a separate note as well is the fact that, again, please work in small portions with this adhesive. It tends to go everywhere. And I'm not a patient man, but inevitably patience is quite the virtue in this project, so just keep that in mind. I will also be leaving links in the description box below on the tools I use, as well as the fact that I found, of course, some amazing videos on YouTube about reupholstery and reupholstery from the professionals. So I would strongly suggest taking a look at those videos right after this project, but just obviously know that those channels don't have the amazing humor and wit that this channel does. I mean, that's obviously what drives people to BYOT, right? Just for the amazing craftsmanship, humor, and colorful socks. I don't know, but in any case, thank you. Go and cut off any excess material after you staple off the entire back edge. And then with your last corner, go ahead and tightly and smoothly try and maneuver the fabric around the corner and then go ahead and just staple it off, making sure the fabric is tucked in nicely and evenly. Now comes time for the seat portion of our project, and the great thing about actually doing the hard portion first is the fact that the second portion that you do, it feels like a breeze. This part, extremely easy comparatively to the top portion, so just keep that in mind and look forward to that one. I first applied my spray adhesive to the front portion of the cushion and then tacked the front edge into place. Then after that was taken care of, I sprayed the back portion of the cushion, making sure that I didn't get any of the overspray on the beautiful fabric that I had recently placed. That is key, so making sure you protect the work that you've already done is always a good step. At that point, go ahead and cut off your excess material, making sure that you leave enough in order to reach the back portion of the chair frame. Now we want excess material on the back portion because we actually want to nail that off into place into the frame. One, because we want to make sure that the fabric doesn't go anywhere and is securely positioned correctly, as well as the fact that you can flip down the other portion of the fabric, making sure that no keys, no change, no Roku TV remote that I just can't seem to find sometimes. It drives me crazy. You don't want anything getting stuck down there that you inevitably might have to rip the chair apart if you didn't do this step. So making sure you do this step is definitely important. So think first before you cut, because you can only cut once. Yep, that's probably just a good motto to live by, whether you're a woodworker or a carpenter or a rabbi. You know, gotta love foreskin jokes, right? Now we proceed to the next portion of our project, which is the next fabric. But first and foremost, we need to actually apply a thin half-inch layer of high-density foam on the front edge. Now we add this high-density foam due to the fact that we removed it in the demo portion of the project. We're just going to be adding a new, nicer, greener version of the foam that we removed originally. Now please note that this foam really doesn't do much other than make it more aesthetically pleasing when you're actually placing the fabric on top of it. In other words, it's all for looks. So just keep that in mind. And it doesn't have to look perfect because we're going to be wrapping over the top of it. Now hopefully all the old fabric pieces that you removed, you still have, because those will come in very handy now at this point where we're going to be wrapping the back side with new fabric, not actually covering the existing fabric. I purchased enough fabric to cover both chairs and laid out the pieces that I removed previously because I'm able to figure out exactly how I need to space these out properly in order to make sure I have enough fabric for both chairs. It was getting pretty tight at a certain point, but luckily for me, I did pretty good with my estimation. And trust me when I tell you this, you don't want to waste fabric because this stuff is not cheap. Definitely a little expensive, but inevitably, beauty comes at a cost sometimes, right? Am I right, fellas? Yeah, I'm right. Maybe. Moving on. You want to center your front piece of fabric into position, then tack it into place in the very middle of the chair, then make sure to proceed slowly and making sure that everything is lined up correctly. You want to consistently have a nice clean, even line all the way across. Once you have the front edge stapled into place, you proceed with using your 1/2-inch cardboard tack strip and place it right over the staples you just placed. Now this basically just gives you a perfect horizontal line without all the hard work. As in, good for you if you can rely on your hand-eye coordination making a perfectly straight staple line, but most people can't do that, which is why we are using a cardboard tack strip, which just makes our life just a little bit easier. And you know what? Sometimes the easier way of doing things is the better way of doing things. Sometimes. Now in my case, I am using a light colored fabric and it looks beautiful, but unfortunately colors tend to show through light fabric, which is why I'm actually applying a thin white layer of fabric in between the foam and the decorative fabric, which will cover up all that color and it won't show through. Hopefully you don't have to worry about this issue if you're using a dark, thick fabric for your project, but inevitably if you are using light fabric, make sure you think about this and just know that this is a quick, easy solution for that problem. I mean, come on, who doesn't love a quick, easy solution for a problem? Hello? Thank you. You're welcome. You know I'm tired and it's late if I'm talking to myself, so I apologize in advance for that. As you proceed to stapling the bottom end of the fabric to the base of the chair, just make sure you're taking into account the surface of the fabric itself. You want to make sure it's as smooth as possible, and it might take a bit of time and energy trying to stretch it in the right direction in order to do so, but with patience and some muscle, you'll be able to accomplish this in no time. Now as we move on to the back fabric, this is where the old fabric being used as a template really comes in handy due to the fact you have a perfect size match of the fabric you need for the back side already, so you know exactly where it needs to be placed. You just need to make sure it lines up properly. I staple one corner in position and then proceed to stapling every 4 to 5 inches, just making sure I have the alignment correct. Once I have the alignment correct, I go about stapling the entire row into position. Now, just as we did previously to the lower portion of the project, we're going to do the same thing, as in making sure that you're stapling as straight as possible, but we are going to be using our 1/4-inch cardboard tack strip to making sure we have a smooth, even line between fabrics. And again, due to the fact that I'm utilizing a light fabric, I'm having to install a poly layer of fabric into position prior to installing the actual fabric itself, due to the fact that I don't want anything to be showing through. I want this to look professional and beautiful. Now here in the final stages of this project, where we really shine is where we can actually utilize a metal tack strip. Now this metal tack strip is going to be the key factor in making sure we have a nice perfect seam edge on both sides of the chair that we are reupholstering. Now as we install this tack strip, you want to make sure we have approximately at least about 1 inch of excess fabric material on the ends in order to poke through that fabric edge and then twist the tack strip around, which utilizes in making sure that you have a perfect seam on the edge that's actually showcased. Now as you press down into position, you want to use a rubber mallet. I use a rubber mallet, but I covered it with some felt just to make sure that it wasn't leaving any marks on my white fabric, because that's the last thing you want after putting so much time and energy into this project. Now as you proceed hammering down the chair inch by inch, you just want to make sure that the fabric is taut. As in, the tauter the fabric, the more likelihood you're going to have a nice perfect seam, as well as just straight fabric through and through on the back side, because that's what we all want, right? At least most of us. Now the tack strips that I'm utilizing for this project are only 2 feet long, so if you do need a stretch that is longer than 2 feet, it's pretty easy just to work in another piece and then cut it with some snips, hammer the edge into place, and you're done. Well, almost done. You do need to staple the bottom edge as well as staple the entire edge around in order to make sure that you have a nice taut, even fabric edge on the backside. And now, finally, we made it to the final step of just stapling the black dust cover into place as well as installing all the legs, and boom, you're done with one chair. And now we can sit back and look at what an incredible transformation we just created. My oh my, that is one beautiful, sexy beast of a reupholstery project. I mean, come on, look at that. Look at the amazing difference. Dear goodness.
And there we have it, episode number 39 of BYOT done. I'm pretty impressed with myself due to the fact that I've never tried a reupholstery project in my life, and this turned out pretty amazing. However, I do have that one to do, so we'll see when we get to that one. In any case, thank you for your time. Please like the video, please subscribe to this channel, and please check out my Instagram feed. I post there weekly, if not daily. Also, please note that I am having a Q&A session on my YouTube channel here in the very near future, as in, if you would like to ask me a question, please leave it in the question box below, and I will be trying to get to every single one of them. We'll see how many I get. In any case, thank you for your time, and till next time.
Pretty painful to watch. Good thing I said, honey, we should reupholster these chairs.
Such a good idea.
We, meaning you.
Thank goodness there's two of them.
You're halfway there.
We're so close. Not really.